Hi guys, welcome to SAM School, and this is going to be us going through a past paper for grade 5s, specifically for grade 5s, but of course everybody's welcome, and it's always nice to practice extra, even if you're in a higher grade, to come back down to a lower level and practice, just to make sure your maths is up to speed. So I'm just going to wait and see if we do have live students logging on with us. I think we do have one. Still a small channel, so I'm hoping we'll get more support as we go along, that people will come along and subscribe and share and, talk about it. Okay, so I'm not going to preamble too long. What you need to be doing is when you're going to go through a past paper, make sure you've got everything ready with you for the live stream. Let's have, papers, pencils, pens, rulers, a calculator to help you, although in most exams at this level, you're not allowed to use a calculator. So just be careful of that. Okay, so I just want to also adjust my ring light quickly because I can see that it's reflecting horribly, which we don't want. Bear with me. I don't normally do live streams. This is a new thing to try and support, kiddies in the community, etc. So I think I'm just going to move it back a bit and see if that's a bit better. No. Okay, so all right, let's get stuck in. I'm going to share the paper that we're going to be doing. Let's get that up and ready. And I'm hoping that the storm is now done and dusted and it's not going to cause any further glitches or issues. Okay, so let's get stuck straight in. When we start an exam, remember that we always want to stay calm, take a nice deep breath, relax. You've done your best, you've prepared. There's nothing more you can do when you sit down. You just now need to go through the process. We start by reading our instructions, always very important. And for this paper, we want to make note of the fact that we've got 50 marks and the hour given is 1 hour. So always keep your time in mind because you want to kind of keep going at a decent pace. You don't want to be losing track of time in an exam. So we're going to work on about a mark per minute for this. The instructions for this exam were to read all the instructions carefully. We know that all calculations must be shown on our question paper. Write neatly and legibly with a pen. And they say for this exam, no calculator, which is common at grade 5 level. Please remember, guys, when you are writing, it's also for your own benefit that you do neat and tidy so that you don't get confused, especially if you want to go back at the end and check a few things. Don't scratch and scribble and do tons of crossings out and numbers over it. Just cross it out and start again in a new place. Okay, that's the best way to go ahead. Let's get stuck straight in. So we're going to be covering, in this exam, we're going to be doing the first section, 10 questions, multiple choice. And we'll go through those shortly. We're just getting an overview here because you normally get a read-through time when you first get given the exam. You can just glance through the paper. What I like to tell my students is that if you know that you prefer a certain type of question, then feel free to go and start with that question. You don't always have to start at number 1 and work your way through. Okay. Question number 2 is going to be about common fractions. And there are just a few questions there for that. Then we will get into questions about length, followed by our shapes questions. Those are 2D shapes that we'll be looking at. And then we move on to the perimeter area and volume. That's always in every exam. You'll see sometimes some of the stuff you've done in class isn't in an exam, but those are the very common ones. And then for question 6, we'll be looking at some time questions. Those are also always in an exam. We need to be comfortable with those. And capacity and conversions, those are also very important and come up a lot. Okay, so there are our 7 questions. Let's go back to the beginning and start working through them step by step. I'm not going to do too much working out and explaining, but I will pause slightly for you to try and work it out for yourself. Okay, so if you're ready, we are going to begin. Question 1. Choose the correct answer and write the letter only in the table given below. And that would be at the bottom of your answer sheet, but you just do it on your paper. 1.1, 582,016 in digits. And the answer is B, 582016. Okay. By the way, I don't normally do this. So if you have any comments about the way I've presented this and the format that I'm following, then feel free to leave comments and suggest changes or, you know, other things that you would prefer me to do, or if you'd like me to do it in a different way. Okay, so number 2, 1.2, which number is a multiple of 4? So remember, we are doing the multiplications here of 4, the 4 times table. So 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8, and so you carry on. Which of those numbers is a multiple of 4? It would be D. 8 times 4 would give us 32. Okay. 1.3. The missing number for the equivalent fraction of 3/7 equals something over 21. And the choices are given A, B, C, D. So what you have to do in this question is figure out how you create the equivalent or, you know, equal fraction. Which number would you substitute at the top of 21? Would it be 9, 6, 15, or 12? And so if you look at what you did to the 3/7, how did you go from 7 to 21 at the bottom? You multiplied by 3. So what you do to the bottom, you always do to the top. And so 3 times 3 would be 9. So the answer here would be A, because 9 would give you the equivalency. Okay, so far so good. And you can see this goes quite quickly. It's 1 mark, so it shouldn't take you longer than 1 minute if you need to do a few calculations or just think about a few things. 1.4. Which 3D object can be made with the following net? So a net is just a flat shape that if we turned it into a 3D shape, we would fold certain sides up and we would get a certain shape. Now look at what we've got in the middle. It's a square. And then we've got triangles all the way around the sides. And if you try and use your imagination and see it in 3D, when you fold each side up, it's going to look like a pyramid, isn't it? So the answer here would be C. It's a square-based pyramid. Okay, number 1.5. 3 hours is equal to how many minutes? Straightforward. We know how many minutes are in 1 hour, 60. And so we've got 3 of those. Our answer would be A. There would be 180 minutes. Okay. 1.6. We've got 7 kilometers converted to meters is equal to. Now we know that a kilometer is how many meters when we do the conversion? 1,000. So if we're sitting with 7 kilometers, for 1 kilometer, that's 1,000 meters. Work out the answer quickly. And your answer would be D, 7,000 meters. It's 7 multiplied by 1,000 to convert from the kilometers down to the meters. Okay, oops. 1.7. Vusi mixes 2 liters of water with 20 milliliters of juice concentrate to make juice. Juice just means, juice concentrate is just strong juice that you need to dilute with water. When you see questions like this, always read the information you are given quite carefully, because they are giving you things that you need to use, and then read the question and understand what they're asking you before answering. It's quite common in maths, well, in any subject. Students often don't read the questions or the information given properly. You don't digest all of that first before you dive on what you think you should be answering. So always be careful, read what you're given, digest the information, figure out what the question is asking, and then get your answer. Okay, so the question is, how many liters of water will he need to mix 80 mils of juice concentrate? So if he was going to put 2 liters to the 20 mils of concentrate, he's now got 80 mils. How much more is that? It's 20 times 4. It's 4 times as much. So how many liters of water is he going to need? He's going to need 8 liters. It's 2 liters multiplied by 4. And that would be B. Okay, 1.8. We have 14416 or 14,416, and they're asking us to round off. Now here's where you've got to read the question carefully, to the nearest thousand. Now think about what is the nearest thousand. In the number given, it's going to be the first 4. It's 4,000 from that point. So the other 3 numbers, the 416, are not the numbers that we're rounding off. Okay, we're actually rounding off the 14,000. And we use the 416 to help us figure out whether we're going up or down. We know the rule is 5 and above we go up, or below we go down. So what's the answer going to be? I'll give you a second. D, 14,000, because we've got 14,400, which is below 5. So we drop it down to the nearest 1,000, 14,000. Okay, hope you're doing okay so far. Right, 1.9. The perimeter of this shape is... Now remember, just a quick note, a lot of students get a little confused by what is the perimeter or what is the area, okay? And it's just a simple thing. Imagine you've got a property and you've got a guard dog patrolling the perimeter, right? He's patrolling the outside to keep you safe. So the perimeter is always, where does the guard dog walk around the house, around the outside? So in this case, we see that we've been given a shape. It's got some squares, but there's no numbers on the shape. So we can just assume, because if we look at the answers, the choices that we have, we can see they're in centimeters. So we can deduce that each little square is 1 centimeter on each side, 1 centimeter on each side. Now we're counting the outside of this shape. So you pick a point where you would like to start in one of the corners, and you count how many lines up, across, along the steps, down, and back to the point where you started. How many lines or little stripes would that be all together? We have to add them up, and that would give us the answer. So I know it might seem simple to some of you, but some people struggle with this, and that's why I'm offering a bit more of an explanation. So I'm going to now give you 2 seconds to figure this out if you haven't already counted. And the answer is 14 centimeters. Okay, C. Number 10. What is the missing number in the number sentence? So when we look at what we are given, it's 80 minus 14 equals something in the block minus 5. So we have to work this out to make sure that each side is balanced or equal. Which of our choices in the ABCD do we need to put in to make this statement true? If we look at 80 minus 14, that's 64. So what do we have to put on the other side that when we minus 5, we end up at 64? I'm going to give you a few moments to figure it out. And the answer is A, 71. So if you were to do the maths on both sides, it would give you the same number. 71 minus 5 is 64. So that's the answer. Right, that's the end of the multiple choice questions, and you would have written them in your block down below, just the name, the letter corresponding to each question. And remember, if you do skip one because you're not sure what that one is about or you're not sure of the answer, just be careful and don't start filling in all the other ones and not leave the space, because then suddenly everything is wrong because you haven't left the space for the one you are going to come back to. I also always tell my students, when you're doing an exam, if you find when you start the exam, you get stuck on a question, don't sit there and like, oh, what, and spend 5 minutes trying to figure it out, because you're going to waste a lot of time without realizing. Always leave a question. As soon as you think, I don't know what to do, or I'm not sure about this one, leave it and come back after you finish the whole paper, because that way time is not a problem for you. When you get stuck and lose track of what you're doing, and you get stuck into a question and you just, you get tunnel vision, and then you forget to check the time. So if you're stuck the first time around, leave it straight away and keep moving, okay? Let's move on to question 2. These are fractions, not everybody's favorite. But remember, guys, I also say that if you practice, the more you practice, the better you get, okay? And maths is no different to your other subjects. You've just got to practice and it'll get better. Okay, common fractions. We are asked for 2.1 to write the correct relationship sign. And here we've got, I don't know what you call it, but lots of students call it the crocodiles. Okay, so we've got the crocodile this way, we've got the crocodile this way, or we've got equals. Now, I always used to be told that it's a hungry crocodile, right? So he wants to eat the bigger number. This is his mouth, and he wants to eat the bigger number. And of course, his back, his tail end, That's the smaller number. He's not interested in that. So the crocodile faces the bigger number unless it's equal. So let's look at 2.1. We've got a half on the one side and 1 over 10. I'm going to give you a few moments and then I'll explain how we get our answer. Okay, so did you say that the half was bigger? So the crocodile faces the half. Now, how do we know? I'm going to draw a quick picture for you on the whiteboard because fractions is challenging for a lot of people. And I'm not going to do a full-on maths lesson here because we're trying to do a past paper. But think about it like this. You go to a party and you have 2 pizzas. They're equal in size. In theory, don't mock my art, okay? So they're equal in size. And now imagine the one pizza gets cut into 2 pieces because the bottom number, our denominator, tells us how many slices the pizza gets cut into. So the first pizza gets cut into 2. That's into halves. 1 half, 2 halves. So you can see the size of that slice. And the other pizza gets chopped up into 10 pieces. Now, I mean, wow, that's a lot less pizza, isn't it? If you look at the size of the slices, and my artwork's going to be terrible. Okay, so that pizza gets chopped up into 10. Look how small those slices are. And so if you took 1 slice of that or 1 slice of that, which slice is bigger? Clearly, the half slice is way bigger. So that's the one the crocodile wants. And that's how you work these sort of things out. Okay, let's move on to the next question. 2.2, complete the following pattern. So we've got 3 and 1/3, 3 and 2/3. Logically, what's the next one? 3 and 3/3, 3 over 3, which is actually 1. So it jumps up to the whole number 4. So the next pattern number in this sequence would be number 4. Okay, we've got 2.3. Calculate the following. And remember also, guys, you might have a different method of doing something. However your teacher has taught you, no problem. It doesn't matter technically how you do it, as long as you get to the correct answer. And remember, for some of the questions, like this one, they want you to show you're working out. So you have to actually show the steps that you used because you do get marks for that. And that can help. And if you don't show the workings out, you lose a mark. Okay. We've got 4 and 3 over 8 plus 2 and 5 over 8. Now, depending on the method you like, feel free to do any way you like, but I'm going to explain it as we add the whole numbers first. So we're going to get the 4 plus the 2, and that's going to equal our 6. And then we'll take the fractions and deal separately with those, where we get 3 over 8 plus 5 over 8. And what do you notice? Remember, when we're adding, we don't add the denominator, only the numerators. And so we'll end up with 8 over 8 for the fraction part. And that's a whole number 1, isn't it? It's 8 over 8, so it's another whole number 1, which means we add that to our original whole number, and the total will be 7, because it's 6 plus 1. So there's our total, 6 whole numbers plus, once we've done the fraction part, an extra 1, and added together we get 7 for the final answer. Okay, let's carry on. So I hope you got that. And don't be discouraged if you don't get it right. You can always come back and redo. The other thing I like to tell my students is it's nice to practice the same exam or the same sums over and over again, because it's helping you understand the method or the theory part of it. So it's not a problem to redo and repeat sums even if you know the answer. It's helping you to understand the steps involved and the process, or how to think about the problem. Okay, so we're going to do B. 1 over 7 of 35 apples. What does that even mean? First, understand the question. So it's asking you for 1/7, 1 portion, out of what was originally 7 portions. Now, they are talking about apples, which suddenly everybody gets all confused about, but don't be confused. What you're starting off with is 35, okay? Whether it's 35 slices of pizza or 35 apples, that's your whole number that you're starting off with. And the 1 over 7 is telling you what to do what should you divide it up into? How many groups or how many slices? So if you've got 35 apples, you're going to divide that by 7. It's 35 divided by 7, which gives you 5. And then you would multiply by the top to give you how much of that you would want. It's 1 times 5. So you end up with 5. So 1/7 of 35 is 5. If you added 2/7, it would be 10. 3/7, it would be 15, and so it would carry on. I hope that makes sense. If I explained it too quickly, replay, rewind, and think about it until it makes sense. Okay, good. Let's move on to this one. Sipho spent 4/12 of his salary on housing and electricity, and another 5/12 of his salary on food. Now, that's a whole lot of words, and it seems like so confusing and so complicated, but it's not. Just think about it calmly. We've got a dude, he earns money, he gets a salary at the end of the month. Some of that he pays for his housing or his rent and his electricity. Easy peasy. So we're going to be, taking that out of his amount that he has left. And then he has another amount of money that he uses on food. So these are his expenses. The question, however, is not asking us what his expenses are. It's asking us what's left over. There's a key word here, left over. In other words, after he's spent the housing, the rent, the electricity, the food, that much of his money is gone. What's left? That's the question they're asking. What fraction of his salary was left over? So if we look at our two fractions there, we've got 4/12. We don't know how much his salary is, do we? They didn't tell us how much he's earning, but they've just divided his salary up into 12s. So it means that the amount of money he earned, let's say it was 12,000, they divided it up into groups. And they said, Group 1 is 1,000, Group 2 is 1,000, Group 3 is 1,000, Group 4 is 1,000, all the way up to 12,000. So we've got 12 groups of 1,000. 4 of those groups, which is 4,000, went to housing and electricity. Another 5 of those groups went to food. So by doing it in a mathematical fashion, we've got 4/12 plus 5/12 equals. Now remember again, we're plussing, so we don't multiply or add the bottom. We're just adding the top. 9 groups of money, or 9,000 Rand. I'm just making up that number. So it's 9/12. So he used 9/12 of his money. But what is left over? 3/12. That's what's left over. That's the actual question. That's the part they want to know. We've got 3/12 left over. And we can further simplify 3/12, can't we? Because we want to simplify our answer. So our final answer for this is 1/4. 1/4 of his money was left over. Hope that makes sense. And great. Let's see what the next question is. So we're going to now move on to question 3, which is our length question. Easy peasy. They've given us a little table to do, and they've asked us 3.1, complete the table. In the first part, we see we've got 652 centimeters. And then they want us to turn that into meters and centimeters. So what do we have to do? We know that there are 100 centimeters in a meter. So we're just going to divide by 100, and it would end up as 6 meters and 52 centimeters. 6 meters and 52 centimeters. And for the next part, they want to know when it's rounded off to the nearest meter. 6,52. So we're going to go up, right? Because from 5 and up, we go up. It's going to become 7 meters. And that's your answer. Great. Hope you're still alive, the one dear person that logged on for the live stream. Thanks for joining. And yeah, hopefully, guys, when you find this, when you come to this eventually, I hope that it's all not too confusing. Good. 3.2. The distance between Johannesburg and Port Elizabeth is 1,075 kilometers. What distance will you travel if you go there and back? Again, lots of words, but we don't panic. We just read what we are given, figure out what they're giving us, and then what's the actual question. So they tell us from Joburg to PE, how far is it? That's one way. It doesn't matter if you live in Joburg or if you live in PE. It doesn't matter which way you're going. You're going to travel one way and it will be 1,075. Now they want to know if you go there and back. 1075 times 2 because it's 2 trips. So you would write that down and your final answer is 2,150 kilometers. And please don't forget to write your units, because if you don't add the units, then you kind of just don't get the full marks. You don't need the units when you're doing the calculations, but when you give the final answer, you must represent the units that you were given in the problem. Let's move on to question 4, shapes. So we're doing 2D shapes here. They are just flat on a piece of paper shapes. There's no dimension to them. They're just flat shapes. And it asks us to write the correct letter next to the number that it matches. Okay, so let's look at all of the information we're given. Our shapes, 4.1.1 and 2 and 3. We can see what they are. They're pretty straightforward to see. Look at the descriptions that are offered. A is it has 3 sides and 1 right angle. Well, immediately we know that's going to be the triangle. So I would answer 4.1.3 first. And I would say that that goes with A. Now we've already taken that out of it, so we've only got 2 choices left. Kind of narrows our options down and keeps it simpler. Okay, our first picture 1.1 is a square. And so the second choice is it has 4 right angles and 4 equal sides. That should immediately tell you equal sides is a square. So 4.1.1 B, which leaves only C to go with 4.1.2. Okay, so just to make sure we're clear on all of that, 4.1.1 is B, 4.1.2 is C, and 4.1.3 is A. Great. Okay, so let's see what the next question is. Write whether this transformation is a reflection, a translation, or a rotation. So you should have already practiced these and you should know what those words mean. If you don't know what the words mean, you're not going to know what to do in this question. So think about it. What does rotation mean? Turning, rotating, okay? So when we take a shape and we turn it, that's called rotation. Is that what happened here? From one to the next, from one triangle to the next? No, we didn't rotate that. Reflection is when you have a mirror image and it reflects. So it turns direction. So is this a reflection? No. Okay, so the answer is it's a translation. It means we're just moving it to another place. The shape itself hasn't moved much. It hasn't changed direction. It's just moved its space. Translation. It's just moved across sideways. Okay. 4.3. What type of angle is shown at B? Don't get confused or thrown off by the cube and it's all 3D and because all of the sides of the cube are made up of a whole bunch of squares, and we know that the angles are right angles. So that's the answer for that one. Okay, 4.4. How many lines of symmetry does this shape have? Now think about, what does symmetry mean? It means equal on both sides. So that imagine you had it drawn on a piece of paper and you were to fold the piece of paper down the middle in whichever direction, then you would have the same shape on both sides, or the same outline on both sides. Like when you draw a heart on a piece of paper, you fold the paper in half, you draw half of the heart, and when you open it up, it's the full heart, okay? That's a line of symmetry. A square, easy peasy. You can chop a square in half, you can chop it in that way, you can chop it from corner to corner. So there's lots of lines of symmetry in a square. But in a shape like this, how many lines of symmetry are there? Only 1. And I'll quickly draw it for you, just in case you need that extra little bit of help to understand. And this is not going to be the best artwork because it's quick and freehand. Okay. So let's do it quickly. And I'm going to draw a dotted line for where you would have the line of symmetry, because then you'd have equal shapes on both sides. I can't draw the dotted lines down this way because then you don't have the same thing on both sides. It's not symmetrical. Okay. So there's only 1 line of symmetry. Okay. Let's move on to 4.5. Okay, here's another table to fill out. It's a 3D object, and they're asking you for a couple of different things. So if you're not sure, go and revise this, because it's important that you understand each topic. Name of object, then you want the number of faces, and then you want the shapes of the faces. So what are the faces? It just means the different sides to the 3D object. Okay, it's got different sides. And if you were to turn it, if you had a real one in your hand, you would be able to turn it and you would see all these different sides. As it's drawn there, you can see that it's made up of two different types of shapes. I'm going to give you a few moments to look at this one. So the name of this shape is a pentagonal prism. Pentagonal because the word pent means 5. And if you count the number of sides, it's 5. It's a 5-sided figure or shape. Pentagonal prism. And the number of faces, we've got a top and a bottom, and then we've got 5 all the way around the side. So altogether we've got 7 faces. Now if you look, what have we got? We've got some pentagons and rectangles. They do look a little like a square, to be honest. So, but they say pent rectangles. Okay. I think it should be square though. Okay, question 5. Let's move on. So we're doing perimeter, area, and volume. Now again, go and refresh these if you're not sure what they are. But perimeter is the outside of a shape where the guard dog would patrol around the house. The area would be everything in between the lines or inside of the shape, inside of the lines. And volume happens when we've got a 3D thing, when we suddenly have up, down, left, right, all around. That's volume. Okay, so let's look at 5.1. We've got a polygon shape, meaning many sides. The measurements have been filled in of the shape, and they want us to first of all name this shape. Now, can you see that 2 sides, the sides that go like this, are the same length, but they're not in the same direction? And then we've got 2 lines, one's longer at the top and one's shorter at the bottom. So firstly, what is the name of this shape? It's a trapezium. Trapezium, very specifically. Okay, now the length of each side is easy. You just write down what you're given. 8 meters plus 5 meters plus 3 meters plus 5 meters. And those are the lengths. Altogether, you add them up, and then you get your final answer for the perimeter. Okay, so the perimeter is 5 plus 8 plus 5 plus 3, and the total is 21 meters. Don't forget your units because it's in meters. And if you just said 21, it's not technically correct, and you can lose marks for that. Okay. Let's go on to the next one, 5.2. So here we look at what they're giving us, very important. If each block is 1 centimeter squared, what is the area of this shape? The area, which means all of the inside portion. So the area is going to be 9 centimeters squared. We've got 3 down and 3 across. And basically, if you count all the squares, it's 9 squares. Or you can say 3 multiplied by 3, one side times the other. And remember, when you do your notation for your answer, don't forget to do that squared thingy that they're talking about, because area is always in units squared. So for this, it's going to be 9, and it's in centimeters. And then we put that little exponent, or the little power, 2 squared. Otherwise, it's not correct. If you just wrote 9 centimeters, that's not correct. It has to be 9 centimeters squared. Okay. 5.3. Now we are asked for the volume, and they're asking us in brackets for centimeters cubed. Remember, when we're doing volume, it's 3-dimensional, so it's always going to be a cubed in the answer. Let me give you a few seconds. Let's see if you can work this out. Okay, so we are doing volume, which means we're counting the cubic centimeters or the cubic squares. We can do this just by looking at this picture. We just have to count the squares. Now, remember, we're only seeing a portion. Some of these little squares or cubes are hiding at the back, but we can imagine them and see them in our mind. So we're counting at the bottom, 1, 2, 3. We can see that there's the same on the other side, even though some of them are hidden. So there would be another 3 on the other side. Altogether, that gives us 6 at the bottom. And we can see what's left at the top, another 4. So 6 plus 4 is 10. The final answer is 10 centimeters cubed. Don't forget the notation there. Okay, we're moving on to question 6. And again, a crocodile question, same as before. The hungry crocodile wants the bigger number here so that he can eat it, okay? Think about what we are given, 20 hours or 1 day. Which one is bigger? And which way does the crocodile face? Okay, he's going to face the 1 day because how many hours are in a day? 24. And he would prefer that. So the crocodile faces the 1 day. Part B, 2 years or 24 months. Pretty straightforward. How many months are in 1 year? 12 months. And so we know that it's equal. 2 years is equal. It's the same thing as saying 24 months. So an equal sign. The crocodile gets left out. Okay, let's move on to some time. We have to write the time on the clock, shown in 24-hour time and 12-hour. Notice for the 12-hour, they've got in brackets AM or PM. When we do 24-hour time, we don't need AM or PM because it's automatically implied based on the number that we have. Okay. I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can work it out for yourself. So they're asking us for 24-hour notation. So we would have the small hand is 8 o'clock. How many minutes past 8? And remember, you count in blocks of 5 for the minutes. From 12 to 1, it's 5. 1 to 2, it's 5. 2 to 3, it's 5. So it's 5, 10, 15 minutes past 8 o'clock. So we would write, I'll do it on the board as well so that you can make sure you're getting it correct. So for 8 o'clock in the 24-hour notation, it's 20, isn't it? Because once you get to 12, you keep going. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we get to 20 H and 15 minutes. And when we need to do AM or PM, it would be 8, 15, PM. How do we know it's PM? Because of the information they gave us, right? So it's 8:15 PM. And it says going to bed. And we've got a little picture of a bedroom, which means it's at night. Okay, so that automatically tells us PM. If it's in the morning, it's AM. Okay. 6.3. Now we have to calculate the length of time for the activity. So we look at the 2 clocks they gave us. We can see somebody's reading. So how long is he reading for? He's starting at first clock on the left. That's the starting clock. And if we look at the big hand and the small hand, it's pointing to 2 o'clock on the dot. The small hand is the hour. So we've got 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. He starts the activity. What's on the other clock? If you look at the little hand, it hasn't moved much. It's kind of moved past the 2. But if you look carefully, it's not quite yet at 3 o'clock. Okay, so it isn't a full hour that he was reading because the 3 isn't quite there. And the small hand, which is our minutes, has gone from the 12 position all the way around until the 9 position. And if you count your little blocks, it's 5, 10, 15, 20, dung, 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 until 45. So it's 45 minutes that he studied. He studied from 2 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. And so the total time he studied is 45 minutes. And don't forget to write minutes. Your answer that you need to give is the length of time. So equals 45 minutes. That's the answer. But do show you're working out because that's what's important. Okay. Right, here we have quite a long word sum. And so we take our time and we digest and look at everything carefully. Joe took 45 seconds to run around the field. If he kept the same speed, how long would it take for him to run around the field 10 times? So that's the first part, the information part that they're giving us, which we chew on and digest and look at. So what do? He went around once at 45 seconds. After 10 times, we've just multiplied by 10. 45 seconds times 10 equals 450 seconds. But that's not finished, because what do they ask us to do? They said, write your answer in seconds and minutes. They want you to convert it. So they want you to go from the 450 seconds, and when you divide that by 60, because we know there's 60 seconds in a minute, we end up with 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Just go and double check how to do that. Make sure you're able to go from the seconds to the minutes. Okay. And let's move on to our last question, which is number 7, capacity. Practice going from all your different metrics, okay? Practice converting milliliters to liters, meters, centimeters, kilometers. Make sure you practice those both ways, because that's something you can do and do very well. And then it makes your life a lot easier when you get to the exam, okay? So for 7.1a, they're asking us to convert to milliliters. We are given 7.5 liters. How many milliliters would that be? So your answer would be 7,500 milliliters, because remember, there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. So you would say 7 times 1,000. That gives you your 7,000. And then we've got another half a liter, which would be 500. Okay, so it's 7,500. Next is, so we've got 3 liters and 9 milliliters. So remember, don't get distracted and forget about the little old extra 9 milliliters there. 3 liters, we know there's 1,000 per liter, so it's 3 times 1,000, and that's 3,000, plus that little extra 9 milliliters, the final answer, 3,009 milliliters. Okay, 7.2. We have to write down the capacity of the jug in milliliters at 2 different points where the arrows are pointing. So where there's a arrow pointing, we have to work out the milliliters at that level. And if you see that the jug is divided into the 1 liter mark and the 2 liter mark. So how many other little marks are there to help you know the smaller divisions? If you look from the bottom, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So each little line is another 200 milliliters. If you look between the 1 liter and the 2 liter, you're going to get 1 liter 200, 1 liter 400, 1 liter 600, 1 liter 800, and 2 liters. So at point A, it's 1,400 milliliters, because they said in milliliters, okay? And for point B, it's 600 milliliters. Good, we're nearly there. If you've hung in, you're nearly there. Okay, 7.3 is our last question. 2 liters, 875 milliliters of water was poured from a jug containing 4 liters and 500 milliliters of water. How much was left in the container? And they want the answer in liters and milliliters. So first, let's work it out and then make sure we do the conversion at the end. Okay, so how do we do this one? Well, we're minusing, so we turn the first, to make it easier for ourselves, we can just turn it into milliliters to do the subtraction. Then we can convert it back into liters and milliliters. So we would say 4,500 milliliters minus 2,875 milliliters equals 1,725. 1,725 milliliters. And to convert it back, I think they might have made a little mistake here, because I haven't worked this out myself, but then they've turned it into 1 liter 625. Okay, but you know what this is about, right? I'm not going to work it out exactly right now because my brain is tired, but that's basically what we need to do. Okay, so I hope that was okay, and I hope that helped. I hope that's helping you to prepare for exams. Remember, guys, when you are doing exams, take your time, stay calm, don't dwell on the questions for the first time you're going through. Keep it neat and tidy. Work everything out to the best of your ability. When you're done with the paper, you can go back and fill in the ones that you weren't sure about. And just a last little tip before we say goodbye. Let me finish sharing that. Okay, so a last tip. It might be a bit late for you, but this is a tip going forward for maths for the rest of your school career. Please make sure you understand and know your times tables backwards way. Go and learn your multiplication tables, because these exams often say no calculators. You can't be sitting in an exam saying, what's 8 times 4? And it takes you a whole minute just to calculate 8 times 4. That needs to pop out of your head. You need to know that it's 32, done. Okay, so go and practice your times tables. Make sure you know how to do them. That's it. This is a wrap. I'm going to do some more papers and upload them. And yeah, any comments, any suggestions on doing things different or changing up the format or something like that, that would be very welcome. But for now, we're out of here, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.